Hey everybody, welcome to my show today. So over the past couple weeks, if you didn't know, we're working on this project for our small local hometown.
How exciting!
Yeah, it is exciting. Documentary discussing how we got through this big, huge fire event a couple years ago, and it got me in the mood to come back to talking to you guys about some inspirational stories, some happy stories. Some are sad but turn into hope, and some are just all around awesome. So I wanted to start tonight off with a local story that happened right at our high school on the 22nd. So I'm going to read this story from the parents' perspective, and then we'll go on from there. So this is a family member. His daughter played volleyball against our town, Estacada, the other day. And he wanted somebody in Estacada to post this. So this person went on our Facebook sites that we have and posted this so the Estacada parents could see. And he said, so Danner's team came and put a whooping on Estacada. Got to throw that in there. But I don't know if they have a local paper or a local Facebook page to post this on. So he basically didn't know where to inform Estacada this happened. He said, my wallet fell out of my pocket in the stands. It had $380 cash in it. I called the school first thing Wednesday morning to ask if anyone had found it. They sent a janitor in to look, but he didn't find it. About an hour later, I got a text from a student, Caleb Riley. He found my wallet and turned it in with all the money in it. I had Uncle Tony pick it up, and I left a $50 gift for the young man. That young man should get an extra pat on the back for doing the right thing. Definitely made me proud of my ties to that little school, which they have very cool commons area. Well, thank you. But anyway, if you could share that with with the local page, or if you know the kids' parents, I just thought that was pretty cool. Young kids get a bad rap these days. He could have easily grabbed the cash, pitched the wallet, and pretended like he never saw it. Anyways, good on Estacada High. So I thought that was pretty cool. Hi, Osrin. Hi, Laurelyn. I thought that was a pretty awesome story to hear. I know we have sometimes our teenagers this day and age not all of our teenagers give us a lot of hope for the future. I know I have a hard time seeing some of the things our kids are doing or getting into. And to hear a story like that makes me feel really good about our town and the parents that are raising our kids out here. And grateful that I'm choosing to raise Riley with my lovely husband in Estacada. I think it's just a really awesome story. Hi, Shelby. That would be great. Yeah, it was a pretty awesome story. So I have a bunch of little ones, but I wanted to start us off with my main story tonight. It might take me a little while to tell it because I've got to read it in order here. But we have pictures to go along with this story. And you're going to think any true crime people that love true crime, you're going to love this story because it involves that kind of stuff. And some of you might think, well, this doesn't seem like a happy story at all, but there's an ending that is really important. So stay with me. Hi, Richard, and hi, William. I'm great. Hope you're doing well, too. So stick with me through this story, and you'll see why I picked it.
Onward.
He's going to kill me with those sounds, I tell you. This story is by Aaron Stoffel Ulmer. My life would be forever changed on May 3rd, 2015. On that day, a gunman would senselessly open fire on me and my family while we were on a walk in a park, enjoying a beautiful spring day. So she goes on. So if you post the first picture, you'll see this lovely young couple. And she talks about, I met my husband, John, in high school. He was a senior and I was a junior. John had one of those personalities that you just couldn't forget. He was a little crazy, kind of loud, and he had an unmistakable love for people. The thing that stood out to me most was his love for Jesus. He took his faith seriously and being a new Christian myself, I very much admired that. We started dating that year, and John left for Bible college in California in the fall, while I had one more year of high school to finish. Our long-distance relationship was challenging because he didn't even have a phone in his dorm room, and of course, this was before the days of cell phones and text messaging. I remember those days. I ended up following John out to California the next year after I graduated high school in 2001 to attend Calvary Chapel Bible College, and we were engaged shortly after. He proposed to me by secretly tying an engagement ring on a fishing line and throwing it out in the water, which should give you an idea of his personality. He pretended to have a fish on the line and let me reel it in. Definitely a moment I will never forget. That's really sweet. We were married in August 2002. I was 19. He was 20. So there's a picture of them getting married up there too. Uh-oh. Over the next 13 years of marriage, we grew in our faith and in our relationship with each other. We worked hard on our marriage, knowing that only God could fulfill our deepest needs. We tried to give each other a lot of grace. Church was a huge part of our life and not just a Sunday routine. Good for them. John had always worked hard to provide for our family and finally realized his dream of becoming a carpenter with a local construction company. He would buy copies of the book More Than a Carpenter in bulk and keep them in his car to hand out to anyone who was interested in learning more about Jesus. He was 33. By 2015, we had 3 children. My 11-year-old daughter, Olivia, was quiet and shy. Everyone told me she was my mini-me, since she had my mannerisms and used to follow me around. Sounds like Riley, actually. She loved the Lord with her sincerity and maturity that you don't often see in children her age. Olivia never missed a chance to tell others about Jesus, and she was bold in her faith despite being reserved. Sunday, May 3rd, 2015 was a beautiful spring day, and I had to work at church after church for a few hours at the YMCA after work. After work, I wanted to enjoy some family time outside, so we decided to go for a walk on a newly constructed bridge that was becoming a popular place in our community. So there's another picture that's of the family, and then after that, there's a picture of the bridge as well. The Trestle Trail, so there's their cute little family. The Olivia is all the way on the right. The Trestle Trail Bridge was a 1,600-foot pedestrian bridge that had become that had been converted from a railroad bridge and was located on a little lake butte, Des Moines in Menasha, Wisconsin. There it is. We walked all the way from one side to the other and decided to turn around since the lake flies were swarming on the other side. I know what those are like. In the middle of the bridge is a red pavilion with some benches underneath, and as we approached, we noticed a man slumped over on one of the benches, with another man standing nearby. My son Ezra, who was 7 at the time, was further ahead with our dog Sammy. As we came closer to the red pavilion, John approached the man and tried to see what was the matter. Nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. Without warning, the man pulled out a gun and shot John in the chest. He shot my daughter Olivia, and then he shot me through the leg. We all went to the ground. I grabbed the hand of my 5-year-old daughter Selah, who was standing next to me in shock, and we started to run. More shots fired. This couldn't be real. I approached my son Ezra, who was further ahead, and told him to run to get help. I was shot 2 more times as we ran off the bridge. One of the bullets hitting my left hand, lodging into my wedding ring, and the other through my abdomen. Finally, I reached the end of the bridge, collapsed to the ground. I don't even remember feeling any pain until I stopped to lay there. I told my 2 kids to get help. Looking back towards the bridge, I didn't see anyone coming. I would later learn that the gunman had taken his own life. My husband John, my daughter Olivia, and another innocent man named Adam did not survive the terror of that day. As I lay there waiting for help, I knew that the whole world was changing. This day would permanently mark my family and the entire community. I never lost consciousness as they transported me to the hospital. My only memory of the ambulance was that every bump we went over was excruciating. I longed to be put out, and that happened as soon as we arrived at the hospital where I underwent emergency surgery. When I awoke from the surgery, reality came flooding back into my mind, and my worst fears were confirmed. John and Olivia were gone. I couldn't speak because there was a tube in my mouth, and I was still foggy from the medication. But I had to tell everyone what the last words of my husband John were. It was the last thing I heard him say as we ran off the bridge that day, and it came from the heart of a man who loved Jesus and understood what it meant to be forgiven. John said to the shooter, "May God forgive you." I struggled to write this down on paper since I couldn't speak. In the wake of such tragedy, such unspeakable evil, those words from John echoed what was spoken by Stephen in the book of Acts as he was being stoned to death. My physical recovery was slow and painful, with multiple surgeries required to repair the damage done to my hand. My relationship with God was tested, and I had so many questions in my mind about why and how this has all happened. This man didn't know us at all. We just happened to be in that place at that time. What I've come to understand is that God does not waste our pain. There is purpose in it. Tragedy, death, suffering, they change you, and I'm not the same person I was when I stepped onto that bridge in 2015. I realized that I am not alone either. When I read the story of a woman named Elizabeth Elliot, I felt such a deep connection with her and what she went through. She too lost her spouse in an act of violence, but never allowed hatred to consume her. She not only forgave her husband's killers, she shared the gospel with them. Her perseverance through unimaginable hardship and loss and her unwavering faith have inspired me and encouraged me. If you are facing hardship right now, I want you to know that you are not alone. And she goes on to talk about this book, which I will post it later. She said, "I shared my story because I want people to know that there is hope in Jesus no matter what your circumstances are. We grieve, but we do not grieve as those with no hope." And then there's a Bible verse on here I wanted to share with you guys before I move on to another story. "Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope." That's 1 Thessalonians 4:13. So the reason I shared this story is because we go through a lot of trying times. Throughout our lives, there's a lot of things that happen. Some of us have been through some crazy, unimaginable tragedies. Some of us have lost loved ones. Some of us have been through a lot of hardship and heartbreak. But what happens to you isn't what defines you. It's how you respond and how you get back up. And I think it's really important to focus on your not losing faith and not losing hope. Just like when the fires hit us a couple years ago, listening to all the stories of everyone coming in here to tell their story for our documentary has just really inspired me to continue to push those stories of hope forward. So we're going to do this more often. Some comments. Kelly says, "Hi, sweetie. How are you?" "I'm okay. How are you?" Laurelyn said, "It's so sad. I can't even imagine her suffering." And then Joel said, "I'm sharing story of hardship and faith." So before we go on to more, Connie says, "Brandy, thanks for that story. I think I need to sit with a tissue box next to me." Yeah, I almost cried telling it, so I'm glad I made it through. So let's go to our first sponsor, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about some more happy, peppy stories that aren't quite so hard to get through. Our first sponsor is Whitney Signs. Supply, if you start the show over later when we're done, you can see the beginning. Whitney Signs is great. They're a local sign company here. We talk about them every week because they're amazing. We love them. Check out their video. Okay, we're back. And if you notice, my sign moved because it fell. Anyways, I wanted to tell you this story. It's one of those stories that has a moral to it. It's not like a true life story like the rest of my stories will be. But I wanted to tell this because it really fits with what we just talked about. Yeah. Ooh. It's called The Elephant Rope. And so it goes, a gentleman was walking through an elephant camp, and he spotted that the elephants weren't being kept in cages or held by the use of chains. All that was holding them back from escaping the camp was a small piece of rope tied to one of their legs, something they can clearly get out of. As the man gazed upon the elephants, he was completely confused as to why the elephants didn't just use their strength to break the rope and escape the camp. They could easily have done so, but instead they didn't try at all. Curious and wanting to know the answer, he asked the trainer nearby why the elephants were just standing there and never tried to escape. The trainer replied, when they are very young and much smaller, we use the same size rope to tie them. And at that age, it's enough to hold them. As they grow up, they are conditioned to believe they cannot break away. They believe the rope can still hold them, so they never try to break free. The only reason that the elephants weren't breaking free and escaping from the camp was that over time they adopted the belief that it just wasn't possible. The moral of the story is, no matter how much the world tries to hold you back, always continue with the belief that what you want to achieve is possible. Believing you can become successful is the most important step to actually achieving it. So basically,
as a princess, I am always underestimated.
This is true. So basically how this ties us together is no matter what you're going through, no matter what hard times you see ahead of you, if you consistently have that faith and that belief that you can get through it or you can succeed, you will. But if you allow yourself to be held back, you won't. It's really important to not hold yourself back. That's a big thing that a lot of people do, I think. I've done that. Lawrence said, everyone's hardship leaves a very deep impact in their life. That's true. Just listening to our stories that we're filming for our documentary, everybody has been touched permanently by some of the hardships we've had in our town. It's crazy. So I have another few stories to tell you guys. Sorry, I'm just trying to get through the notes here, so I'm not rereading that. This one's really cool, and I actually have another story to add to it that's a personal one that after I read it. So when the supermarket clerk tallied up my groceries, I was $12 over from what I had with me. I began to remove items from the bags when another shopper handed me a $20 bill. Please don't put yourself out, I told him. Let me tell you a story, he said. My mother is in the hospital with cancer. I visit her every day and bring her flowers. I went this morning. and she got mad at me for spending money on more flowers. She demanded that I do something else with that money. So here, please accept this. It is my mother's flowers. Aw, that's so sweet. Yeah, I've had several.
I'm speechless.
I've had those sounds are really gonna throw me off. I've had several experiences with this. Paying it forward, like you're in the drive-through line and you pay for the person behind you. I've been one of those people that's been paid for being the car behind, and then I spread the love on, and it's one of those things that just makes you feel good about the people around you and that they're still good in the world. Or, go buy a Christmas tree and pay for the next person's Christmas tree. We did that one year, and we paid for the person behind us Christmas tree, and then we found out that it kept going for like 10 times. So like 10 people behind us did the same thing until they finally reached someone who couldn't necessarily afford the Christmas tree, and they were able to. So that was pretty cool. Paying it forward can make a big difference. I mean, that's what I spend my life doing, honestly. Comments. Resimi says exactly. Sorry, some of the name is cut off. This is so true. Scott said 10 times. Really? Yeah. From what I understand, it was 10. It went like 10 times before it stopped. Very cool. Yep. Very cool. This other story is, I forgot about the rules on liquids when you carry on luggage on a plane. Sorry, I am not talking well tonight. So when I hit security at the airport, I had to give up all my painting supplies. When I returned a week later, an attendant was at the baggage area with my paints. Aww. Not only had he kept them for me, but he looked up my return date and time in order to meet me. Well, that's going way above and beyond. That's pretty special. As a painter, that would break my heart to have to give up all my paints. I don't think I could do it. I probably wouldn't have gotten on the plane. I would have been pretty crushed. I saw a dress. Those sounds, man. I saw a dress in an op shop that I knew my granddaughter would love, but money was tight, so I asked the store owner if she could hold it for me, like a layaway type of thing. I don't know if you guys remember layaway. I used to do that with like Walmart and stuff, or Kmart, when Kmart existed. May I buy the dress for you? Asked another customer. Thank you, but I can't accept such a gracious gift, I said, and then she told me why it was so important for her to help me. She had been homeless for 3 years. She said, and had it not been for the kindness of strangers, she would not have been able to survive. I'm no longer homeless, and my situation has improved, she said. I promised myself that I would repay the kindness so many had shown me. She paid for the dress, and the only payment she would accept in return was a heartfelt hug. Oh, that's really sweet. See, paying it forward, you guys. It makes a huge impact. You will never know. I mean, sometimes you might hear, but there's a lot of times where you can do one small gesture of kindness and you don't even realize how big of an impact it makes. Like giving food to somebody who looks hungry, or nominating a family in need on Christmas or Thanksgiving to be adopted or helped by a nonprofit, or doing the yard work of an elderly person or someone who's disabled. Those things might seem small to you, but they're huge in somebody's life that needs it. Resimi is saying those sounds. She's laughing out loud at those sounds. Me too. And I'm trying to figure out how to get through it. A heartfelt hug. I love that. Yay! Me too. I think that's really sweet. Oh, there's another. I don't know if you guys heard about this. There was a story on the news a few years ago, and it was about this grandma had accidentally sent a text to the wrong person, and she says, are we counting you for Thanksgiving? And he was like a young adult, I think 19, 20 years old, and he said, well, I think you have the wrong number, but can I still come? And she said, yeah, absolutely. So he showed up with his girlfriend or something like that, and they brought him into the fold like he was one of the family, and apparently from that moment forward, it became a tradition. He was always at their Thanksgiving dinners, and they became like a second family to him. I think that's pretty special. We do something similar on Thanksgiving at our house. We have an open door policy all the time, but we have an even more open door policy on Thanksgiving, where anybody who doesn't have a place to go is welcome to come eat with us. And it always ends up being a really good time because it's not the same group all the time. I mean, we have our core group of people that are usually there, but we always have somebody new or somebody that hasn't been before. and they get to experience just a really good time of eating and hanging out, and a lot of times we'll play games. And some people that don't have a family to go hang out with or a place to go for Thanksgiving, just having that time with other people, that fellowship with other people, means everything. So we do that. We've done that since, oh my gosh, since Riley was a baby. We've done that. Here's another story for you before we go to our next commercial. As I walked through the car park, all I could think about was the dire diagnosis I had handed my patient, Jimmy, pancreatic cancer. Just then I noticed an elderly gentleman handing tools to someone working under his stalled car. That someone was Jimmy. "Jimmy, what are you doing?" I yelled out. Jimmy dusted off his pants. "My cancer didn't tell me not to help others, Doc," he said, before waving at the old man to start the car. The engine roared to life. The old man thanked Jimmy and drove off. Then Jimmy got into his car, took off as well. The take-home message for this is kindness has no limits and no restrictions. That's very true. And as somebody who, Jay says, I got to remember to get the marshmallow fluff before the stores are all closed out this year. Yes, you do. Kelly says, "Hi guys, how are you?" Hi, everyone's saying hi to each other. Joel accidentally said Geely instead of Kelly. That's pretty funny. So yeah, kindness doesn't have limits.
Not amused.
And just because you might be in a situation where you're having hardship doesn't mean you can put kindness on others. And sometimes if you're going through a really hard time, reaching out and helping somebody else will make you feel better and helps you get through it. As somebody with a chronic illness, I have a lot of friends, not necessarily in person, but in support groups. I have friends, and a lot of times they tell me stories of things that they do to help each other. And I've noticed that a lot of people that are either have a chronic illness or have something seriously wrong going on, they're typically the ones that are reaching out, that are joining nonprofits or volunteering in their community or helping others because they know what it's like to be in a position to need help. And it's very cool to see. Like in our own little town, we have a great community of people that take care of one another and come together, and it's very inspiring to see. So our next commercial, is right. Our next commercial is about Hitch and Post Pizza. They are one of our local pizza places, but if you're anywhere near the area, I'd say Oregon at all, you should check them out. They're pretty good. Check out their video. Oh, we're back. Sorry, I was trying to get to my new notes. I have another one of those stories on here that's not a true one, but it's pretty cool. It's an encouragement story, and it's called The Group of Frogs. Pizza. Yes, pizza is awesome. The Group of Frogs. As a group of frogs was traveling through the woods, two of them fell into a deep pit. When the other frogs crowded around the pit and saw how deep it was, they told the two frogs that there was no hope left for them. However, the two frogs decided to ignore what the others were saying, and they proceeded to try to jump out of the pit. Despite their efforts, the group of frogs at the top of the pit were all saying that they should never give up, that they should just give up. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. That they would never make it out. So even though these frogs are trying to get out, the ones at the top are saying, just give up. You're not going to make it. Just give up. Eventually, one of the frogs took heed to what others were saying, and he gave up, falling down to his death. The other frog continued to jump as hard as he could. Again, the crowd of frogs yelled at him to stop the pain, and just die. He jumped even harder and finally made it out. When he got out, the other frog said, "Didn't you hear us?" The frog explained to them that he was deaf. He thought they were encouraging him the entire time. Wow. Moral of the story, people's words can have a big effect on others' lives. Think about what you say before it comes out of your mouth. It might just be the difference between life and death. That is a very
Speech.
powerful message when you think about that, because if he had heard them, do you think he would have given up? The fact that he was deaf was a gift to him in that moment, because he saw them jumping up and yelling and he thought they were encouraging him. And I think that's pretty powerful. Maybe it will help you think about the words you say to somebody. Encouragement, positivity makes a big difference. I have another local story I wanted to read you guys. And it's from our local high school again. It goes on to say, a special moment played out during Estacada High School's JV football game with both teams beside him. Ryan Hunt, an Estacada student with Down syndrome, scored a touchdown and celebrated his achievement with players from both sides. Ryan's head coach, Brian Scott, says it was a moment for the community as much as it was for Ryan. Ryan's parents described him as a social butterfly, that it doesn't matter what you're doing, he just wants to be a part of it. Now he is a member of the Estacada JV football team. On Monday, Ryan got the opportunity and scored a 70-yard touchdown. Well, someone tried to tackle me and I went through the end zone, said Ryan. When Ryan was born with Down syndrome, his parents say they had their concerns. Your kid is born different than other kids. When he had a diagnosis of Down syndrome, we didn't know what to expect, what his life would be like, and there was a lot of fear and a lot of worry with that, says his mother, Heidi. But now he's just another ranger. A ranger is the name of our mascot. Ryan gets to be just as much a part of the team as anyone else, taking part in drills like tackling and catching with a little help from his mentor. I kind of do modified warm-ups for him. He can't do them all, says Nathan Hagel, Ryan's mentor. I don't have to step in a lot of the time because the team will pull them to the side and show him what to do. He does a lot of things with me, like push-ups, waving, tapping on helmets, says Ryan. Now Ryan has 60 new brothers. There's not a guy on that field that doesn't have Ryan in their radar and making sure Ryan's good to go. They're quick when Ryan is confused on something to help him out, says JV head coach Brian Scott. But the road to get here wasn't easy. In 2019, Ryan was in the hospital and on a ventilator for a month. The Hunt family wasn't sure if Ryan would get better. There weren't any answers. They couldn't really give us any explanations. It was just, he just doesn't seem to be getting better. And really was all we ever heard. So that was what his dad said, John. So basically, it seems like for this period of time he's in the hospital and they didn't know what was going on. They had no answers. That I couldn't imagine as a parent. That would be so scary. To see him now fully engaged in high school, fully present, being a part of a team, it's amazing. I can't even put words to it, says his mother, Heidi. And his mom says that he's the most popular guy in school. I don't doubt that. Because everywhere he goes, he's high-fiving somebody and he's bringing the enthusiasm for life to school. One of the things that I've learned is to not put limitations on him. That kid surprises me all the time. Ryan may be different, but he's got dreams just like everyone else. He says he wants to be a police officer when he grows up and have a family of his own. That's pretty special, you guys. Pretty stinking awesome. So, as a kid, I want to tell this story, but let me see. Oh, Go Rangers. I like that one. Very short, but very meaningful. A group of frogs is called an army. Must be Marines. That's really scary feeling for a parent. Yep, for sure. Growing up, I was diagnosed with my illness when I was really young. And so I was kind of the sick kid. Luckily, I had a lot of great people around me. I had friends probably in every clique, you would call them, of school. High school was tough. And there was this moment where I was in a brace on my knee because I had just had a surgery or something. So I was on crutches and I had this brace on my knee. And I'd have to get into the bus because I was too young to drive and my parents were working, so I had to ride the bus to school. Was one of those rare moments. I think my brother was 3 years older than me. He would drive me. But nope, I was a sophomore at this time, so he was already doing his own thing. So he wasn't driving me that year. I had to ride the bus. So as I'm coming out of the bus, those few steps you have to get out of the bus with crutches is not so easy. So I'm crutching out of the bus, and I get down, and I kind of wobble at the end, and this jackass behind me pushed me down and started laughing. He just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And then he held me down by my backpack. So every time I tried to get up, because, you're trying to get up with crutches and a leg that's in a brace, it's really hard to get off the ground. So I tried to get up. It took me about 20 minutes for finally somebody came by and saw and got him off of me and helped me up. And later that day, he kept trying to taunt me and stuff. And I had a couple friends that helped me through the day. And then I got home and I told my brother that story. And my brother went down to this guy's house, and I won't tell you what he did, but at that time my brother and I were really close, and he took care of it. And I never had the problem ever again. Now, this is an example of a time when I could have given up. I could have said, you know what, I don't want to go to school. I had this thing where if I couldn't go to school, I didn't have to because of my illness and because of things I was going through. I could do things at home. Joel said they still haven't found the body. Not quite that severe, but, I could have given up. I could have said, this is too hard. I don't want to do this. And I could have stayed home for the remainder of the year, but I didn't. I went back the next day, and I had some amazing people around me that helped me through it, and it's one of those moments where I could have taken it, and it has clearly impacted me to this day, 22 years later. But it helped me to be stronger, and I never let that get me to a point where I gave up on going to school or gave up on doing life normally. Kelly said, what a POS, yeah. And Joel said, you still haven't given me that guy's name. Lauren said, well, how could he do that? Joel said, they still haven't found the body. And Laurelyn said, you really need to give that guy's name to Joel, dear. His name was Ben. I don't know his last name. He was a little punk. But there's all kinds of these moments in our life. We go through hard times. We have things that all of us have our struggles. All of us have our mountains to climb. But if you focus on the bad and you don't focus on the good, you miss out on a lot of things. If you focus on the positive and you don't let the bad get you down, you see a lot of beauty in the world. I just heard a really loud noise out there. Hopefully all is okay. I have another story for you. I just have to get it. Okay, so the butterfly. Now, I like this one. The butterfly is a story about struggles, which we've been talking about. A man found a cocoon of a butterfly. One day, a small opening appeared. He sat and watched the butterfly for several hours as it struggled to force its body through that little hole, until it suddenly stopped making any progress, and it looks like it was stuck. So the man decided to help the butterfly. He took a pair of scissors and snipped off the remaining bit of the cocoon. The butterfly then emerged easily, although it had a swollen body and a small, shriveled wings. The man didn't think anything of it and sat there waiting for the wings to enlarge to support the butterfly. But that didn't happen. The butterfly spent the rest of its life unable to fly, crawling around with tiny wings and a swollen body. Despite the kind heart of the man, he didn't understand that the restricting cocoon and the struggle needed by the butterfly to get itself through the small opening were God's way of forcing fluid from the body of the butterfly into the wings to prepare itself for flying once it was out of the cocoon. The moral of the story is our struggles in life develop our strengths. Just like I said, without struggles, we never grow and we never get stronger. So it's important for us to tackle challenges on our own and not be relying on help from others. That is true. I mean, having help from others is okay. That's a good thing. But like this is saying, our struggles make us stronger. Like, for example, the fires we had a couple years ago, I know I go back to that, but it's really in my head because I've been going through these interviews, and we just had all these people interviewing here. But it really strengthened our town. It helped. Would I say I want a fire? No, absolutely not. But it strengthened our town in the way that we realized our strength comes from coming together. Our strength comes from our community as a whole, being there for one another, helping each other. Our strength comes from knowing all the wonderful gifts our community has and how many people can come together and stop a tragedy from getting worse. If we didn't have the community we have, we wouldn't have the town, because that fire was coming, and the only way we saved our town was by coming together and fighting it ourselves. We didn't have anyone to come help us. And in fact, our help had gone back. So because of that, now when other things happen, like a recent fire came, we were able to hit that fire head on, and it didn't turn into the other one. So these struggles can make you stronger, just like people I know with chronic illness or life-threatening diseases are some of the strongest people I know. Joel said my daughter's just so our daughter came in and scared the crap out of him. That was the loud noise we heard. Resami says you're really precious, Brandy. Oh, thank you. Millie said great point. Sherry says pain has a purpose. It makes us bitter or better. That is so true. That is very true. You could take pain, and yeah, I have my bad days because I deal with pain every day. You could take pain and let that make you into this bitter, hard-hearted, angry person. Or you can take it and use it to be compassionate towards others in pain. You can take it and let it make you stronger and realize there's a purpose there for it. As a Christian, certain different faiths, certain different religions will tell you if you're still ill, you have little faith. I don't believe that. I do believe in healing. I do believe that happens, but I also believe that there's a purpose and a plan, and God's will is not my will. So while I'm waiting to get better, I can use this as an opportunity to help others. And I think I've been given a unique opportunity to understand other people's pain. I've been given a unique opportunity to be able to help people through when they're going through a hard time. And I'm grateful for that. I wouldn't be the human being I am that is happy to work for free every day of my life. I wouldn't be the person I am today who overdoes it all the time just to put goodness out into the world if I wasn't going through the troubles I was going through. So we're going to hit one more commercial and then we'll come back. This is our Pissed Off Patriot line. And it's either our Pissed Off Patriot line or the game coming out. Joel can choose which one he wants to put up there. So check it out. Oh, hi, you're back. Yay. Did you guys like that? That's a game coming out soon. It's going to be really cool. I'm excited for that, actually. Sorry, I'm trying to get to my last little story I wanted to read you guys. Here it is. Okay. So this is a story about a man who jumped off a bridge. And it goes on to tell you why, so don't think anything crazy. There's a reason for it. A car crashes on a bridge, and a child is catapulted into the water below. Who will save her? It was a bright spring afternoon along the Maryland coast, and Jonathan Bauer, age 51, a technology executive at a hospital, and his 13-year-old daughter, Ava, were taking full advantage of it. They were driving with the windows down as they headed home on the 1.4-mile, two-lane Route 90 bridge, which spans the shallow waters of Assawoman Bay. Wow, that's an interesting name of a bay. It's ASSA Woman Bay. Suddenly, the calm was disturbed by the squeal of tires. Not far ahead of them, a black pickup was skidding from one lane to the other. To the Bowers' horror, it slammed into a concrete barrier, spun like a top, flipped over the SUV directly ahead of them, and came to rest dangling over the railing of the bridge. Ooh. Bauer hit the brakes in time to avoid the vehicles in his path, but a BMW sedan that had smashed into the guardrail on the right came sliding backwards towards him. Scary. He swerved left, but too late. The BMW struck his Volvo fender before crashing into the vehicle behind him. Bauer stopped the car. "Ava, are you okay?" he asked. She was shaken, but otherwise unhurt. He ran to the BMW. "Are you okay?" he asked to the driver. She nodded, too shocked to speak. And then a shriek. It came from the pickup, which had come to rest on its right side. The rear passenger compartment and truck bed hung out past the guardrail, 30 or more feet above the water of the bay. The driver's door flung open and a man climbed out. He dropped to the ground, then sprinted to the railing. Bauer ran up beside him. The man pointed down, saying something in Spanish. In the water was a car seat. Bobbing next to it, a girl, about 2 years old. Pink polka-dotted dress, brown hair, brown eyes, terrified, floating on her back, kicking and splashing and screaming. From around the truck, more screaming from its other passengers who had gotten clear of the wreck and were looking down into the water. Matters quickly went from bad to frightening when the toddler rolled over onto her stomach. Oh no. Bauer waited for the pickup driver to do something, but he didn't budge. Maybe he was in shock? "Ava," Bauer yelled, stopping to remove his shoes. "Stand by the car." He held no illusions about his chances jumping from this height into such shallow water. 4 feet of depth was the most he could hope for. He'd gotten his boat stuck here a time or two, and were there rocks this close to the concrete pillars of the bridge, he wondered. He climbed onto the railing and executed the most painless belly flop he could muster. A moment later, he was bouncing off the sandy bottom, unhurt. The little girl was less than 10 feet away. Bauer swam to her in a few quick strokes and lifted her out of the water, mouth half open, eyes nearly closed, not breathing. Standing, he laid her against his shoulder and whacked on her back with the flat of his hand. "Come on, come on." And then a retching sound as ocean water came streaming from her mouth, but still no breath. Another whack on the back, another retch, followed by a gasp, and that beautiful sensation of little fingers gripping him around the neck. Her eyes were open now, focused on him. He pulled her close, hugging her to shield her from the cold. A moment later, a family on a pontoon boat pulled up and hauled Bauer and the little girl aboard. They motored to a boat ramp where an ambulance waited. Minutes later, the girl was en route to Johns Hopkins Hospital in helicopter, and Bauer was hugging his own daughter next to their banged-up car on the bridge. The toddler suffered a broken shoulder, but was otherwise uninjured. Yeah, very sweet, huh? Ava Bauer was so inspired by her father's actions that 4 months later she became a cadet firefighter so that she too could save lives. That girl is going to live a whole life because of him, she says. It's incredible. Isn't that awesome story to end the night? Thought that was pretty cool. So tonight I just wanted to give you guys some awesome stories of hope. Maybe some tragedy mixed in there, but hope that comes after. And show you guys how everyday life can be something that is either horrible or wonderful. It depends on you. Your outlook and the way you approach it is all on you. What happens to us isn't our fault, but what we do with it is. That's our responsibility. So I encourage all of you to take time each day to think of positives. Think of the joyful moments. Try to bring joy to others. Do something nice for somebody else, whether you know them or not. And let's try to bring love back into the world and stop being so negative, because it's getting pretty bad. Scott said this is a unique story. Laurelyn said it's so great. The last one is the best. And Howard said true. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great week. We will not be here next week. So we'll see you in 2 weeks with some new stuff to talk about. And I hope that you have a really good time. And I'd love to hear stories, so send them away. I'd love to hear inspirational stories or things that you guys have been through, to put in my next time I do an episode like this. So if you have anything like that, send it our way. You can send it through Messenger on our Facebook. You can send it to our website. Joel will put it up in the comments of ways you can reach us, our email. But yeah, I would love to hear your stories, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. And yeah, we'll see you later. Have a good night.
Good night. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.